Let me begin with this, as apparently Doug Pederson's going to give away play calling duties in Philadelphia in some form or fashion. He said this, that giving up offensive play calling duties was, quote, on the table, but the Eagles coach already doled out that some to assistants, NFL sources told The Inquirer. That's from Jeff McLean of The Inquirer. Michael Lombardi said this about Doug Pederson. Now, keep in mind, Doug Pederson was hired as head coach of the Eagles, replacing Chip Kelly in 2016. Chip Kelly had 20 wins in his first 2 years with the Eagles before the bottom fell out. And that was when, if you remember, Sam Bradford got hurt. And which time did Sam Bradford get hurt? Yeah, it's one of the times that he got hurt with Philadelphia. Pederson was hired. His first year, they were 7-9. They had Bradford on the team, but when they drafted and traded up to get Carson Wentz, they traded away Bradford for a first-round pick. That team went 7-9. Okay. His second year, they won the Super Bowl. The year after that, they were 9-7. Last year, they were 9-7. This year, they're 3-7. And though they have some potential wins on their schedule, if you've watched them play, they're a mess. Michael Lombardi's a friend of the show, a longtime NFL guy. And before that Super Bowl season, he said, now everybody knows Pederson isn't a head coach. He might be less qualified to coach a team than anyone I've seen in my 30-plus years in the NFL. Doug Pederson was barely a coordinator before he became a head coach. Lombardi said only Carson Wentz can save Pederson's job. If you take away the Super Bowl winning year, right? The Super Bowl winning year, they're 20-30-1. Now, if you're fair and you take away the high and you take away the low, right, which would be 3-7-1 and 13-3, right? He's basically a 500 coach. He's fine. The remaining schedule is at Packers, Saints, Cardinals, at Cowboys, Washington football team. They're not beating the Packers. They're not beating the Saints. I don't think they're beating the Cardinals, but I don't know that. Cowboys could be a potential win, although who knows, right? Could be payback for last year. Last year, the game was played in Philadelphia. All Dallas had to do was win the game to win the division, and Carson Wentz played great. Then they got Washington last game of the year, which could be one of the ugliest football games of all time, or it could be for either team to go to the playoffs. That is, the potential is out there. But here's the thing. I think that Michael Lombardi was onto something, and I think that has been exposed. Is Carson Wentz been good? No. No one's going to argue with you that Carson Wentz is playing his best football. Apparently, per Pederson, he stood up in front of the team and said, hey, I got to play better. This is Doug Pederson talking about his quarterback and what he said to the team.
For him to stand up and take ownership there with the team and show vulnerability. And I still consider Carson in that young, only 5 years in, it's still relatively young in this league. They're showing signs of maturity and growth. It was good to see, and conversations that he and I have had hopefully have maybe spurred him in that right direction.
Right. So this is Doug Pederson. If Carson performs well, it's the conversations that we've had will spur him in the right direction. Conversations, they said. That's what spurs people in the right direction. Right? I mean, you start I already gave away some playoff, some play calling duties. Now everything's on the table. We got the quarterback apologizing to the team for not playing well. This is a mess. This is not head coaching stuff. It's just not. And what's fascinating is the biggest difference in Sean McVay, who didn't play in the NFL, is 20 years younger than Doug Pederson, and how he handles a quarterback. Jared Goff has had his struggles. Last year was the year in which everyone said, teams made Jared Goff beat him, and that's why they didn't make the playoffs. Every once in a while, some frustration has come out, but basically he's tried to make life easier for his young star quarterback. Pederson may have tried the same, and I'm reasonable to tell you that there's just a litany of injuries, and you have even guys that aren't hurt. I mean, of course, when you have Deshaun Jackson, he's going to get hurt. He's older. Alshon Jeffrey hurt a ton. I know he played last week, but he's older. Of course they're going to get hurt. Lane Johnson and Jason Peters. These guys have been bad or been hurt because they're older. There's mistakes that have been made all around. But when we have this much data on a coach, and the data and you have enough people telling you, I don't think he's the guy. It reminds me very much of Coach O. Did you guys see that LSU is a 25-point dog to Alabama this week? 25 points. What happened last year? Last year, Alabama kicked the crap out of, LSU kicked the tar out of Alabama, right? Really out of everyone, but it was what they did to Alabama that put everyone kind of on notice. Go back and look at that incredible season, and this is a team where you say to yourself, all right, well, and remember 2 years ago they got beat 29-0 by Alabama. With Joe Burrow as their quarterback. They got beat. They got absolutely housed. They got skunked. Right, did you guys ever use that term, skunked? Like in ping pong, when you get beat 7-0, they don't go on. Last year was 46-41. They put up 46 points on Alabama. And even that, it wasn't, a lot of that is garbage time points. Right? LSU was the better team. This year, they're 25-point dogs. And there's a lot of talk that, maybe Coach O isn't the guy. There's some similarities there. Right? Joe Brady was the offensive mastermind that brought in some of the Saints offense, and they had a super talented quarterback. Now he's with the Panthers. The Panthers been a little bit better than people expected, considering it's a rebuild year. And the LSU's offense, granted, they lost a ton of dudes. Look at the Eagles. Their offensive coaching staff, their offensive coordinator, is the head coach of the Colts, who's having a good year despite the fact that his quarterback is up and down, a Hall of Famer who's well past his prime. He's got coaches spread out throughout the league, including the Bears, where they're not doing well at the quarterback spot. But the fact was, you had Carson Wentz playing at a magical level. The rest of the NFC was all banged up. Remember, that's the year Aaron Rodgers wasn't in the playoffs. Cowboys were in the playoffs. Vikings had a bad quarterback. Like, everything that could possibly go right went right. And you had a great staff that could cover the holes of Doug Pederson, which, by the way, is what every staff should do. Right? Have guys that know what you don't know. But when they lost that staff and they lost that momentum, and Carson Wentz came back and wasn't quite the same, and they only rushed him back because Nick Foles wasn't close to being the same. Now, that's when you show how good a coach you are, and that's gotten exposed. I'm not sitting here telling you none of it is Carson Wentz's fault. I'm not sitting here telling you he's playing well. But what I do believe is that this is when true coaching gets exposed. If you have it, you find a way to work through it and figure it out. That's what they're doing in New England. And if you don't, you start giving up more play calling duties and throwing everything and making your quarterback apologize to the team and talking about vulnerability and saying my conversations with him are the reason that he's going to get better.